Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're sitting down with a community powerhouse,
Ooh.
Jimmy Greene. His leadership across multiple industries, his commitment and inclusion and diversity is now his work. And with the Memorial Cup, we saw that in the past. Saginaw Spirit, some new information that's rolling out as well, make him a true force in our region. We're excited to dive into his journey, lessons in leadership, and how Saginaw is thriving through sports and a strategic community investment.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me, first of all.
Thanks for coming.
With that kind of introduction, though, it's like it can only go down from there.
No.
I always want to just go, that's it.
I'm done here.
That's it. Absolutely. I don't want to ruin it. What a great intro. Thank you.
No, we're excited to have you. Looking forward to continuing our focus segments, and we really are talking about beyond the focus to help people build community engagements.
Absolutely.
No one should be doing things alone, and Saginaw Spirit's great. You've been instrumental in the community. We see you a lot on different social aspects, and want to kind of walk through that together today.
I love it because I think what you guys do is really a cornerstone behind me. I mean, you invest in people, and I think sometimes people miss that part of it. By you investing in them, it allows them the opportunity to invest back in our community, and it's reciprocal.
Sure.
And I think we all play a role in that, and I think sometimes we underestimate that. And I think maybe because you do your business every day, you forget the importance of what you do contribute back to people who walk outside these doors and back in our communities.
Sure, yeah. Then that way they can go out and be able to come to events, spend some money, share with others.
That was good advertisement for you, just so you know. I mean, it wasn't designed that way, but that's perfect.
Then they can just feel delighted to be out and be happy.
Yeah.
So if we kind of go back to the beginning, and really with that, I know you're from Flint. You shared that with me when we had coffee. So share with me, how does that relate to any of the work that you're doing today?
Everything. So I grew up in the projects in Flint. Impoverished neighborhood. I mean, people have heard the story, except that I'm a reflection of it. My mother and father were both alcoholics. My dad wasn't around much. My mom, on the other hand, allowed alcohol to almost dictate her behavior. So I think she took her frustration, her anger out on me. I was the oldest of 6 kids. And so she was that kind of violent drunk. My dad would be considered like the happy drunk. But Flint for me is a testament to my resiliency. I didn't know it then because you're just struggling. You don't know what you want, who you are. You don't know any of that kind of stuff that I think my 6 kids take for granted because there was always a pathway for them. I had no pathway, so I mean, you're just navigating this thing called life, trying to figure out how not to trip over something. And boy,
Sure.
I tell you what, the detours you make along the way are just incredible. Not that I regret any of them, but yeah, so the Flint for me is still, I drive back through Flint when I'm going anywhere south, and sometimes I'll just go back to those projects and pinch myself. I think I wrestle a little bit with imposter syndrome. When you grow up like that, you always think, oh my God, when's the bubble going to burst? And like, even when you read that, I still feel almost sheepish about it. When you think about how you got here, the humility of that journey has just been amazing.
But being resilient in those roadblocks, that's probably what taught you the most.
And
it's okay to not always just have this clear pathway. I think so many of us really can show our true colors by saying, well, we tried this, that didn't work, and this is how we want to make sure that we make some adjustments.
Yeah, what's interesting about it is the biggest thing for me going through that journey is you know what bad days are. And the bad days that other people have, you just kind of smile at, like, really? Like, that's your bad day? I know what it's like to be hungry and broke and poor and troubled and all those different, things you would use, those traits that typically take people down bad pathways. And I recognize those, even alcoholism. I had never drank in my life because I was always afraid of it. So yeah, it does. It teaches you a lot. And not that I wouldn't trade. When I was younger, I would have traded with anybody who had a gifted life or a privileged life. But I didn't. And so going through this now, I sometimes shudder a little bit because I always wonder how resilient my kids are. Only because they've never had to suffer. They never had that. And so that dad thing in me kind of takes shape. Like, kind of wonder, when they hit bottom, do they know how to get up? And me, I'd pop up like right away. So,
like I've been there. We're going to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even like your resume is so incredibly diverse.
Oh, yeah.
So as you'd go through, from childhood development to tech, I think there was public policy, now sports. How do those chapters in your life do you think came to fruition as you call them? I'm just going to call them the road to life. Right?
Yeah. Yep. I was never afraid to say no. And it was a journey, and it's so funny to me. I only filled out one application in my life. And that was when I was struggling. I had a child on the way. I needed a job. So I applied to Second National Bank at the time, and they accepted me in their manager training program. Last application I ever filled out. And every other thing that happened for me, I was a stockbroker. Merrill Lynch recruited me. And then from there, I went to Prudential. At that point, I had a guy who was a client of mine who had this noble idea about starting a phone company. And he said, I need a master salesperson. And I said, well, why are you looking at me? He goes, well, he sent me a check for $250,000 just by calling him. I cold called him, and he thought, if I can convince him to send me $250,000 to invest, I can certainly convince people to do, phone service. And so he said, you're the best salesperson I know. And I was kind of getting burnt out a little bit too.
Sure.
And I thought, God, this is a new lease on life, if you will. And I think I've always found challenges like that. And so I left, and I wound up going with a company called Phone Michigan, and we revolutionized phone service in the state of Michigan. And from there, I had this idea that it was too easy. And this is going to sound weird. I thought it was too easy to do that. And so I had this idea that I was going to be the person who answered the door instead of the person who knocked on the door. So I opened up my own consulting business called Total Solutions Group. And so I became the person who answered the door, made it tougher. I did a lot of consulting. That's how I really got immersed here in Saginaw. I started doing consulting for Yo and Yo, a lot of big banks, a lot of the cities. So that's how I wound up in technology. And from there, it just kind of grew. And I've always been immersed in politics. And again, as IT departments became more prevalent, my services became less needed. And so at that point, you're almost looking at that next thing. Well, the next thing for me was politics, only because I'd always worked on campaigns, always been immersed in it. And so I had National Federation of Independent Businesses reach out to me and say, hey, would you like to come on board and help us do this policy thing? And it happened. So I joined them, and then from there, again, it's crazy. Dave Massoud, who runs Massoud Law, the Associated Builders and Contractors had a problem with CEOs and presidents. So they had like 5 presidents in 7 years. Of course, why in the hell would I go into that, right? But they came after me, and we sat down, and I was just challenged by the idea that nobody knew who they were. And so I had this little chip on my shoulder that's what I would do. I would make ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, a brand that people would respect, that people would know. And it worked. And it's funny to me now, I go back and think about it, because that's all I've ever done is brand.
Sure.
And I mean, even the hat. Look, I'm wearing a Saginaw Spirit hat. I've always had a hat on, and my hat has always reflected what I've done. And it's always been about the person or the company I represented, not about me. And I think in some respects, maybe that's me hiding a little bit.
Well, or just finding something that's bigger than yourself. So as soon, I just feel like what you've done, you continue to find something that's bigger than Jimmy Greene. And
absolutely.
You support that. You put your effort into that. And the resiliency, I just think, comes, you like new challenges, and how can I help move into the next thing to help edify, build them up, create new connections. And I think that that's really what, continues to make people seek out and look at you, because it's not just about you. It's about.
It is, but I think you probably feel the same way, right? I mean, in doing what you do, it's just that. It's about taking something that somebody has and then building it, right? And giving them more opportunity, more capabilities to do more with. So the same thing was true for me with the community and all the things I've ever done. So I've never just done that. I've always been immersed in the community. I've served on 32 board of directors in this region. Yeah, I know. And I which kind of means I probably don't have a life, but it's been service. And I love it though, because you always feel like you're helping somebody through something. And when you've been through a lot yourself, I've had cancer twice, so when you've been through those kind of life things, you do feel this sort of connection with people. I always walk in a room and I always feel like I have something in common with every single person I meet. only because of the journey I've been in and some of the things that have happened in my life. I always felt like that.
So the relatability, building on past experiences, relationships. I'm sure even public policy helped you then with moving into the Spirit and all that's happening and developing. And I continue to personally feel like hockey is a lot different than it was even 5 years ago, in my opinion.
And you're right. And it's funny because when I left ABC, I had again started my own public policy company. I was doing lobbying in Lansing, and Dick Garber, who's my best friend in the world, him and Craig Goslin reached out to me because they had bid for the Memorial Cup, and he needed somebody who everybody knew and who knew everybody, and that was me. So they reached out to me, and I kept thinking, well, okay, sure. I didn't give as much of a shot at winning it actually. But then we won. I mean, I had my partner Kayla Pionk, who's a Freeland resident as well. We had just met each other, and we became like brother and sister. I mean, every single day. I mean, from sun up to sundown, we worked on the Memorial Cup and talk about a big challenge. And we kept hearing these things like, well, the host never wins. Nobody's ever made a profit at it. We kept hearing all these negatives, and we just kept going and going and going and going until ultimately, that's exactly it. I always say my motto, and I tell my kids this all the time, is just keep going like everything's a yes. If it's a no, it'll find you. And you get surprisingly a long way by just not expecting a no and just kind of anticipating the yes along the way. But I think some people start with the no in mind and they wind up building their own roadblocks.
And maybe even with you saying you had cancer a few times, that resiliency that you brought up initially, and even just saying, hey, I've been there, I've done that. We need to be focused positive on life, on situations, and even with the Memorial Cup, hey, you know what? We're going to give this our all. We're going to focus on the positive side and not let that negative kind of close.
Absolutely. I thought by going through my childhood like I did, I'm like, really? The Memorial Cup? I mean, I thought if something was going to happen to me, it would have happened to cancer or my childhood. I felt like this is a free ride now, I mean, there's no way it's going to take me out the Memorial Cup. It was just one of those things. Again, it goes back to perspective, right? Like, this is wonderful. It's great. I find like just getting up in a day, trying to figure out something to contribute to, and it finds you, when you're receptive to it.
So each day when you're looking for that, even for the listeners, what are you finding is your inspiration to have new challenges, new goals? What kind of keeps you your direction or your focus?
Oh, you said it. I have to steal what you said. It's those things are bigger than you. When I first got to Saginaw, I remember the names Spence, Humford, Hendricks, Garber, all those. And for me, my only goal was to build a name that people knew and recognized. Not for me though. I wanted it to be a name for my kids, so that when my kids, knocked on the door and came to Mindy and said, "Hey, Mindy, my name is Taylor Greene," and your response would be, "Oh, you're related to Jimmy," and it makes a difference. Sure. That was really my only goal. And serving the community I thought was the best inroads to it. I didn't have the Garber money or the Spence money. I didn't have a name on a building. So I figured if I didn't have my name on the building, my name would be in that building. Yeah. And it was. So that's 32 boards, and you serve. And so many people, and so many people know you, but it's all through service. And that's what's so cool about it. And I remember Henry Marsh, my best mentor, said to me, treat the community like a bank, and just deposit. Because at some point, you're going to want to withdraw. And the withdrawal for me was the Memorial Cup. So you got an opportunity to at least knock on the door and say, "Hey, Mindy, you got a few seconds." Not that you're obligated, but at least you get an open door. And I think that's all service means to me, is an opportunity for you to ask.
And that might have connected right into the Memorial Cup, right? So it impacted the community tremendously.
It sure did.
And with bringing it to the Saginaw County and it being such a huge success and achievement, what do you think? Has it changed anything, let's say, culturally in Saginaw? Has it viewed any changes to people actually going out having a good time at hockey? How do you view that now?
It's so interesting. Hockey is what we do, but it's the entertainment value that we take the most pride in. When we look at how many people come into our arena, so many first-timers, what's really changed? Young girls. It's amazing. Yeah. We have so many young girls that come into the arena now, and hockey's growing as a popularity sport for them as well, not just in terms of viewing, but in terms of sports. Yep. And so we look at our young demographics in particular, and those you know what happens is mom drives them, and if there's a game, they'll beat you up until you take them to the game, right?
Yeah.
So it really, from a cultural standpoint, we've introduced the sport to new demographics. We actually started something called street ball, which is designed to go back into the inner cities. So it's a black and brown initiative to get young people who are black and brown or impoverished. It could be anybody white for that, for example. It's an economic thing. So we go back into the inner city and say, hey, how would you like to be introduced to street ball, which is a segue into hockey. So we'll bring them into hockey games. And so we knew we had to use the Memorial Cup to grow our demographics and, more importantly, go where we weren't. And that's been a really great positive.
And just enlightenment. I mean, I even remember, I graduated from Michigan State University in 2002. And in 2000, John Munn said, hey, if you ever want to play hockey, you let me know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to play hockey, and I wasn't about to play hockey, but I even take a look at hockey awareness then to hockey awareness now. And now, yes, my 3 daughters who are all under the age of 15 really enjoyed it. It was the first time I introduced them to hockey. Really, they maybe had been to one game a little bit earlier, and now they're so excited for the next season to come up, and gives people great support. Go and cheer on,
My daughters grew up with the Spirit. So my daughters were 6, 8, and 9. And ultimately, they grew up with it. They know hockey better than anybody. They all work for the Spirit. They all worked in game day. I worked in the office environment. They've never not been Saginaw Spirit fans, enthusiasts, if you will. So it does. It's not. Sometimes it is hockey on the ice, no question about it. But it's the family, it's the culture, it's just the excitement of it. And I mean, we are a community icon, right? And I think just drawing people in to say, hey, come on in, give it a whirl. You don't have to like hockey or even play hockey, but I think the entertainment value in itself is worth coming to the game for.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, and it is really fun, and then I think gives people something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And now they want to bring along other people that they like. I think people need to get out from behind their cell phones, tablets, TV, get out in the community and do things. Involvement, the more that people can be involved with one another. What do you feel like is the biggest success that's led from the Memorial Cup, would you say?
I think it's introduced the Saginaw Spirit as an organization, not hockey, as an organization throughout the region. And so now people are, so who are we? What do we do? Our contribution back into the community is acknowledged and recognized as well. So I think it's grown who we are, and that's really who we wanted to be. We wanted to be a community vested organization, not the other way around. We felt like if we contributed back, and our Saginaw Spirit Foundation contributes a lot of money to adopted school programs that we run. And so I think now that beacon that shined on us, and the fact that we won, and now we've garnered all this state and national attention. The governor just gave us an award for outstanding tourism event. Just that kind of, it's an awareness thing, but we've always been who we've been.
You've been who you've been. And congratulations on the award, by the way. That's incredible. But it is so nice.
A lot of people participated in that.
Well, just for people, though, you're right, to see beyond. It's not just about hockey. It's about the lives that you're changing, people that you're inspiring, and what's being supported in the community.
800 volunteers. That tells you a lot right there. We don't do this by ourselves, and we're a small staff, and yet we look big, and that's because of the community. The game day staff are volunteers. I mean, it is an amazing
was really incredible.
Thing. Yeah.
We all just showed up. Okay, what do we do? Your staff was like, over here, we need someone stationed here. Let's go. It was perfect.
Yeah, we appreciate it too.
It was
absolutely.
You talked about resiliency. You're definitely a trusted leader, and then looking forward. So now we have this career about doing the right thing. Maybe falling down several times as we continue to get up. That's how we all learn. But what's kept you the most grounded during challenging times, do you think, that our listeners could feel could help them?
Purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always felt like, even when I had cancer, I never felt like I was going to die. I always felt like, and a lot of people may not have that much faith. I do. Like, I don't know if I consider myself religious, but I am a person of incredible faith. I really believe that I have a purpose here. Every day I get up with that purpose, and that means you slip and fall, and we don't always do the right things. But I always feel like you just keep going. You keep going and going. I know one thing. If today was my last day on earth, I always felt like my 6 kids, That was the purpose for me, that I broke a cycle, that my 6 kids have never experienced the dysfunction, the poverty, the hunger. They've never experienced any of that. I always felt like if I got them out of the house with a clean suitcase, that without any of my dirty laundry in it, that would be a good start for them. And all 6 of my kids have their own suitcases. Now, what they put in them, good, bad, the dirty under, whatever that is, that's on them. But I felt like that was my purpose, and I felt like I'd achieved that. I still have more to do, but I'm okay with the idea that my purpose has been somewhat fulfilled, but I still got a long way to go too.
And I so appreciate that you say it's purpose, but you're like, and I'm not done. You can still continue to lead life with purpose day in and day out. And
I don't think purpose has an expiration date. No, not at all.
We appreciate that, Jimmy.
I appreciate you.
Well, we might feel somewhat similar on that. So community to me is, yes, if you're a person of faith, God didn't put us here on earth to do anything alone. So I think community-wise, as a mom and a business owner, I need to lead with what I call purpose, but also showing that it doesn't mean that everything is always done the right way the first time around. You have to be very transparent, connect with people, and then really make sure you're there to help and support. So if you want to have other people engage in, let's say, opening the door to your services, trusting you, coming in, and we're helping anyone kind of with healthcare or financials, looking to retire, or even raising a family, you have to give this equal opportunity of being a great listener, helping support one another. And this whole, no question is a wrong question, and we all make lots of mistakes. So how do we continue to evolve? And with the community involvement, it just continues to have more people know to who you are, who we are, and what we each stand for, to the next time that someone needs something that you could help them with, or us, Jimmy, then they know, oh, hey, we can talk to Jimmy, or we can talk to Mindy about that.
It's so true. And it's no fair because she stole everything I was going to say. No, but I echo a lot of that. And I think community for me, it's funny. Somebody was asking me the other day about kind of a community question. And I said, the community to me is not the one I want to die in today. Like the community to me is that you lay this foundation, and I want to die in a community that my daughters build, not the one I did. Not mine, but theirs, which means that, we'll continue to go and continue to invest and continue to contribute. And then at some point, my daughters will surpass me, and they will build a community that looks like them, the one I want them to stay in. Because I believe that's for you and I, as a mom and a dad. I'm so tired of a lot of our young people moving out of our communities to find something else. And I think our obligation is to help them find it here. Yes. And that means we have to constantly stay vested in community groups, organizations, nonprofits, business groups, in order to provide that for them. Yeah. It's giving them a hand up, not a handout. And I think that's so important. I think what you guys do, and I said that earlier, and I wasn't just being flippant, I think what you guys do is build that. It's funny, I think you and I have probably gone past each other 1,000 times. And the one time we saw each other was kind of in service. We were there celebrating, a nonprofit organization or a nonprofit event. And I think that's what ultimately happens. Good people, as they always say, water seeks its own level. Yeah. And I think the more of us who continue to connect like this, we build something. And you're right, I would. Somebody who's, especially that 30 to 40 year range person, if they're looking, I'm older than they are now, but I would tell them now, hey, go talk to somebody in financial planning and get a head start on that. Because trust me, 20 years from now, you'll wish you had. Sure. So, these connections matter. They really do. They matter a lot.
And setting a good stage for our children and the next generation to seek out openness to their ideas, letting them be part of that. You're right. So they can grow things here and not look for something different, but it's here.
My daughters are young enough now, and now getting into the workforce, I'd send them here in a heartbeat. I wouldn't wait for them to get to that place. I'd always start them right when they're single, and they are, to build, for my daughters, I want them to be independent, and certainly want a relationship and not need one, especially for economic means anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Agree.
For me, it's simple. Everybody's got a story. And to me, it's imperative that people like us, people who are so animated, people who aren't afraid to ask, It is amazing to me the common interest we have when you just pose a simple question. And sometimes I'll go first. Like I will make a reveal that makes it easy for people to engage in. We had so much fun talking at that table, and I couldn't believe we walked out of there. Really, we walked out of there like we'd always known each other, right?
Sure.
And we had conversations that people who just meet never usually do, but we did. And there's a trust thing in there. There's this safety net by simply posing questions. So no matter what walk of life people have, the one thing they all need is just they need communication. They need companionship. They need all the kind of things that feed us. We talked about purpose. Purpose alone, that's not purpose at all.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have people to provide purpose for and to and with, then this all this stuff is meaningless.
Yeah. We need to brighten up other people's day.
Absolutely.
And to me, I learn something new from different people every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be all different walks of life, different ages. And I think that the more I'm really outgoing, so I think the more that I continue to talk to others, learn from them, hear things.
I can't believe people accuse me of that too. And outgoing. How dare they?
They're all different, even areas of the state. And I grew up in a really small farming community. And so what I learned from there to, living in the greater, Tri-City areas now, and just all the different things that people have done but instrumentally part of. I think as long as we don't have any judgment zone, you don't judge a book by its cover. I love that phrase. You continue to just ask questions, be there for other people, be present. Mm-hmm. So I think the big thing is being present and making sure that we can really listen, to lend a supporting hand, or, talk to people where they realize, like, we're all more relatable than what it seems, and we just have to make that known to others that maybe aren't quite so.
But isn't it funny that you come from a community where there's not a lot of me, and I come from an environment where there's not a lot of you, and yet we share these stories, and ultimately you wind up saying, hey, we'd have been the same person no matter where we were.
Exactly.
Well, for me, it's near and dear. I would say, and because of who I am, it would be the Underground Railroad. My sister was murdered when she was 18 years of age because they didn't have agencies like the Underground Railroad. I just went to their fundraiser just this last week. So I've always been a community volunteer with them. I've never missed one of the fundraisers. And I always feel like every dollar helps somebody else's sister. I couldn't help my own. My brothers and I always carry that for the rest of our lives, that we couldn't help our own sister out of that. So the Underground Railroad for me is very personal, and I will suggest that no matter where people want to get engaged and involved, make it personal. If it's not personal, it just becomes transactional, and that's not a commitment at all. When you feel it, that's where mine is the Underground Railroad, but my advice to anybody listening would be feel something and then volunteer.
Yeah. I probably have two. So yours is about an experience you had in your life. Mm-hmm. Mine is, it could be 20 different spots, but
sure.
Two in particular. One would be Midland has their grief center.
Oh, yeah.
That was excellent. Our youngest daughter had a lot of trouble. My father passed away of cancer, and she went through a lot of things, and we as a family wanted to support her on her own. And they gave us some great ideas of things to do and projects to do at home and what to look out for.
And so on their board too.
Oh, they're incredible.
They are.
So they offered some incredible insight and knowledge for us to help walk our young daughter through that. And on the flip side, American Cancer Society, the V Foundation, those two are, very near and dear to me. Of if we can continue to help develop other treatments, resources for so many various degrees of cancer, those are probably going to be hand in hand to mine that are extremely.
You said that, feel.
Yeah.
Two things you felt. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Education Day. So I had this idea that we would invite, because I was always concerned that not everybody could afford to go to the Memorial Cup. And so I had this idea that I would invite schools, city schools. And then people said, well, yeah, but it's not fair to. So I said, well, what the heck? We'll just invite, we'll invite all the 5th and 6th graders from around the region. Well, they all accepted. It was the loudest, day I think I've ever, and it was crazy. But what was so cool about it was watching all the kids come with their signs from Midland Bay and Saginaw, and we had them all on the lawn, right at the Dow Event Center and across at the Joe Park, and watching that sea of black and red and yellow and white, watching these kids and then watching them kind of interact because they never usually do. You know, these are Midland Bay, Saginaw kids. And then we gave them this free period, which, boy, I could have handled that better. So free, yeah. But it was the magical moment for me. It all came together. You know, you could say winning the Memorial Cup, but it was that felt really, really good because these kids had a chance to experience that, and it didn't cost them anything because I had fundraised to make sure that their transportation was paid for, their lunches were paid for, and having 3,000 kids on that lawn was absolutely the best moment for me. Yeah.
It's a win.
It was. It was big time. It was loud. I never want to see 3,000 kids again, but I mean, it was a magical moment.
Right. Hey.
You know what was weird about it? The teachers. So you bring these teachers out, these chaperones, and it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, they're not doing anything. Why? Because they're letting us babysit their kids. I wanted to go to those teachers in Harvard, like, get your kid. Get your kids.
Yeah. It's just like, here you go.
So I called a police officer. They were so crazy. I called a police officer, City of Saginaw police officer, who's a good friend of mine. And he gets up on stage and he's belted down, gunned down, and he's big, black, and intimidating. And he gets up on the stage, he grabs the microphone, he goes, I want everybody to find your schools and get back on the lawn. That did it. Everybody got back on the lawn. It was good. Yeah.
Well, mine is, not everybody considers it a sport, but my very favorite sports memory is too. I can't ever pick one. So personally,
yeah,
I love dance, and I took dance from the time I was about 3 years old all the way through high school and into college. Kidding. And we'd go to these what's called Tremaine conventions, and I just felt like, oh my goodness, we are with the best dancers teaching us in the world. And what would happen is it would almost be like a couple day. It felt like a marathon. And to me, growing up where we didn't have a whole lot of extra means to pay for those things, I felt like I got every ounce that I could out of that type of sport, utilizing that to go back and perform and help some other team dancer friends of mine. And then we could compete together, learn and grow together. So that's probably near and dear, like my personal.
It's a sport. I would never make fun of that. I did a charity thing one time. I got talked into it. Dances with the Stars here. And so they tricked me into it by saying, would you do it? I danced for the YWCA. See, they hit me with the woman thing, right? Because I'm a sucker for it.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, fine. And so I show up. Teresa Baker is my dance teacher. And she said, well, which one do you want to do first? I went, well, what do you mean, which one? She goes, well, we have 5 dances. I'm like, nobody told me that. So we danced from January to May. And I had to learn all these 5. I mean, we had to rehearse. And I got that competitive thing in me. I'm wearing these shoes. And I'd get home and my calves were burning like hell. And I mean, it was amazing. And I said from that point on, these dancers, I had a whole new respect.
I know.
Man.
I have so much passion for dance. So that'd be my key.
Yeah, there you go. I hear you, sister.
Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your true passions, your journey, and really just inspiring us here today. I really appreciate that. Your vision is instrumental. And now not only are you inspiring all of us here to lead, but to lead with purpose, even part of the Saginaw Spirit. We thank you on behalf of that. If you want to stay involved in what's happening in our community or to learn more about upcoming events, follow Saginaw Spirit and our page for future updates. So there goes a shout out to the Spirit again, too.
Look at you, Mindy. You rock.